Hello, everyone. This is Wojciech, and I'm here with short product management tip part 2, as promised. This time we are going to talk about market research in product development, or sometimes also referred to as product discovery. So this conversation was inspired by the colleague of mine I talked to on LinkedIn who told me, "Hey, how would you research music tech market and like a product in the music tech market?" So it's a very good, fair question. I'll try to answer, but before I do and tell you what I do, because it's again just a practical tip, I think it would be great actually to cover some fundamentals of market research, because I think a lot of product managers, and I was also guilty of it some time ago, have certain knowledge gaps. They don't study market research, and so it's actually good to know what we don't know, right? So what I would like to say is that market research generally can be divided by into these two typologies. So one, primary research, and secondary research, which means primary research done by you or your team, like your own surveys, your own customer visits, your own interviews, and secondary research, talking, like using somebody else's sources, available research publications, reports, you name it, right? Statistical data from census, there is plenty of it available. Generally, people say cheaper, but of course, when there is actually like a commercially created research, it can be pretty expensive too, right? So primary being more relevant because you can actually design the research for a specific purpose, right? Another typology is qualitative versus quantitative. Qualitative, which means you have like a small research that actually allow you with a small group, but allows you to dive deeper into needs and wants and somebody's like a context and their lives, right? Whereas quantitative research is obviously like a larger groups, or at least samples that statistically represent the groups. So what you can do after a research like this, especially done by surveys, that you can extrapolate the results on the entire population. But so what people sometimes say, which is actually some kind of oversimplification, is that you can actually discover a need using qualitative research, using, for example, interviews. And then if you want to actually understand that what you found, with 3, 5, 10 people, you can make a survey, make like a larger research and actually validate if this is, like a common need in this specific population. Yeah? One of the ways you can do the research. Also, what is worth mentioning, there are multiple tools in all these categories, right? So, qualitative, ethnographic research, so which is like a observation in the field, right? Talking or like observing your potential customer in their own natural habitat, focus groups, customer visits, etc., etc. And quantitative research, obviously, everybody knows user testing, A/B testing, especially in software industry, multidimensional scaling, regression analysis. What I would only say is that if you do quantitative research and you don't have knowledge of statistics, it's actually better to get help from a professional researcher, because if you want to actually extrapolate the results, you need to have great sampling, right? So understand what is the population that you research, and create like a research plan, right? So these are the types of research. And I also would like to mention that one, I think, misconception related, to market research is that people usually think of market research only as, like a product discovery, so understanding people needs in order what to build next. Regardless if you talk about the software product, hardware product, physical goods, services, but it's more, right? You need to understand your competition, right? So, marketing. You need to, like obviously usability research, right? Product design, usability testing, packaging, right? So hardware products, everybody buys some, phone or like a laptop, etc. But also like as physical products, you buy food. It's all have a packaging, right? Which is part also like a brand, product brand, etc. Right? So R&D, technology, like a fundamental applied research, state of art, simply, right? Manufacturing, which obviously cost of manufacturing can completely, change your business model, because influences heavily the cost of production, right, of a specific product, right? So it can be actually mean that there is no, doesn't actually, it's not profitable, or it's not going to be profitable, right? Purchasing, vendor selection, so especially in the hardware electronics nowadays, knowing that you can have shortage of specific chips, that the lead time for them is actually in a year, or chemical or medical products, right, drugs. If you know that there is no substitute for a specific substance, you have a significant risk when building the product, right? And actually, if this, for example, vendor goes out of the market or something changes legally, you are simply screwed, right? And you have to know that. And obviously, sales analysis, win loss, right? Understand, yeah, sales, customer satisfaction, etc. Why am I saying? Why am I talking about this? Because if we are just building, if you're responsible for the product strategy and their financial results, you need to understand all this, right? The risk related to, vendors, competition, technology, packaging, right? You simply create like an overall strategy, not just managing backlog and creating, like a new features of your software or hardware product, right? So that's actually very important to know this. So yeah, so I promised at the beginning that I'm going to cover what I do. And I'll just simply start by saying that, I first of all try to understand who I am researching, right? So, who am I building the product for? Of course, if just I'm jumping on the train that is already running existing product, it's easy because you have already like existing customers. Of course, it doesn't mean that I cannot expand, to new user groups, right? New segments of the market, but at least I'm actually, the client is known, right? And in the new product, I started by actually, creating, the persona, which is, who am I trying to research, right? So secondly, what I do is I start by doing secondary research. I do, like a lot of reading. I read newsletters, some publications like music. I obviously have certain people that I'm following on LinkedIn, or for a reason, because I know they share tips and they just they love actually new stuff, so I can find some trends, market trends, right? I also join all the groups here, but very important, I'm not talking about the groups of people who produce, like not competitors, but actually, like, let's say, hobby groups, so people who are actually potential consumers and not producers. So I try to analyze what's up there, and try to observe, and this is where I start, doing some interviews, right? So I try to ask people to join and get on the call with me. If possible, visit them in person, right? That's always great. I know that people sometimes, oh no, don't call, don't have to worry, come, but it's actually, I say, hey, that's important for me. We're just building product. I'm not trying to sell on you, which obviously opens the door nicely, but also simply trying to understand. Yeah. And the same goes obviously with the existing product, right? So, trying always to establish relations, and, the customer development, people call it, right? So building, very closely the product closely with the customer, right? If there is obviously like a already great customer base, and especially for companies who are actually have this model, sales-led model. So when there are like a salespeople, you can actually, you should actually talk to salespeople, because they want to sell, and they will be very happy to share with you, complain, what is missing in the product, what competition has you don't have, what's wrong with the pricing, blah blah blah, right? So they actually are ears and eyes of the company. Larger the customer base, more this input you will get. Yeah, so that's probably like an obvious thing. But if you establish like a short process, and actually, let's say every second week you talk to like your sales team and create it like an Excel sheet where you collect all this. So this can be like an input to your strategy planning, roadmap planning. That could be like this is a great thing, right? Yeah, so that's another thing. Competition. Yeah, so I do like a competition analysis, of course, for new and existing products. And I, if I manage product managers as a head of product, it drives me crazy if if product manager doesn't understand his competition, or like a sort of ignore it. I'm not saying you have to worry too much. I simply be aware, right? Not to mention that we can learn something from them. But I actually found something interesting. So when I do the research on like a competitive research, and I do this using, let's say, Facebook, or especially Facebook or LinkedIn, I can. It's actually it happened to me completely by accident. I researched certain, let's say, virtual instrument. I wanted to create a virtual instrument out of like interesting instruments I had access to. And I say, hey, is this something like this already on the market? Let's try to, native instruments, Spitfire audio, blah, blah, blah. I go through the market. Then I just realized that the algorithms of Facebook, actually, they thought that I'm trying to buy a product, and they just started, to recommend to my feed, like another company. So it was like a perpetual machine. Probably you should know the book Continuous Discovery, right? By Helena Torres. So that's the algorithm actually started to work to my advantage. Creating like a discovery loop for me and actually providing me more and more. And even nowadays, if I'm no longer thinking about this product anymore, I still get oh, this is a new, like a startup. Oh, new startup, right? Because they just want to sell on me, and I have like my new company to my Excel sheet that is created. Yeah. Last but not least, of course, going to trade fairs. In music industry, this could be obviously NAMM show. It can be super booth in Berlin, IBC in Amsterdam. Like a audio engineering society, etc. Right? Different industries. Different fairs. Of course, you'll meet more people who also build products, but it's actually great to talk to other companies, even your competitors, because you can learn what trends, what ideas are in head of other product development people, especially that you can meet people from, let's say, Yamaha, Roland, the largest player on the market, and also see what kind of research they do. So it can also give you certain ideas and feeling about the market, because I think what is the most important thing about that makes both product managers and founders successful is actually like being deeply rooted in the market. So having this feeling, and it can come only about being heavily immersed in your market. To summarize, this is exactly what I would like to say. Different techniques, different. You may actually find different ways helpful, but be immersed, right? So what you have to be is actually immersed in the market, and that's why you can actually polish your intuition. And actually, I found that a lot of successful product managers are actually so powerful because they simply understand the market. They work like a fine-tuned AI algorithm, right? They're rarely wrong. Right. This is, it actually it's longer than usual, but it's actually like a great topic. I attached a couple of links in the description of the video. Obviously, I hope you subscribe, ring the bell, so you can actually, you don't miss another video. There will be every week short tip. Yep. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great day, evening, morning, wherever you are and whenever you watch. Bye.